Well, and local trade poised for some gains today after a rocky trade in the last week. The JSE closing firmer on Friday as markets staged a rebound after stronger than expected U.S. jobs data. Simon Brown is JustOneLap founder, joins us now for a quick markets analysis. Simon, good morning to you. Happy Monday. Let's start with that quick overview of how local trade is faring this morning after the gains in the previous session on Friday.
Yeah, morning, Polly. So as you said, we had a good Friday. It was still a red week last week, and the US did well after a choppy start. But we opened green, but we've sunk lower this morning. Overall market down a quarter, industrials off 0.5%, financial 15 down 0.8%, resources bucking the trend. They're up 0.75%. That is, we see some currency weakness. The rand against the dollars at 19.42.5. Against sterling 23.67 and euro 20.47. Quick look at commodities. We've got gold at 1,864. That's up 1%. Brent 86.97, up almost 3%. Platinum a little bit better, 8.91. Palladium a little weaker at $1,158 an ounce.
Let's talk about these ongoing clashes between Israel and the Hamas military or militant group. It's caused some jitters on the markets, pushing oil prices up more than $3 a barrel. Help us make sense of those moves.
Yeah, I mean, in essence, there's no oil being produced in that part of the world, of course, directly the West Bank and Israel, but it's in the region, and there's concerns. You know, Saudi Arabia is just around there, second biggest producer in the world, and it's creating those worries. Reports that Iran is supporting Hamas. There might be some sanctions in that regard. So just general concerns. At this point, no restrictions to oil supply, but markets are worried, and traders are picking up oil ahead of storing in case we start to see some supply issues. As I said, up 3% this morning. I think we're probably going to see oil trending higher until we start to get some sort of sense of exactly how this is all going to play out with the different those involved, particularly the oil-producing nations.
Let's talk company news. Nissan South Africa planning to retrench 25% of its employees. That's about 400 out of a total of 1,600 workers. Talk us through those developments and what they mean.
Yeah, this is their Rosslyn plant up here, and the story is quite simple. The NP200 bakkie, which they've been producing at the Rosslyn plant in Pretoria for ever and a day, that's basically end of life, March of next year, and they haven't extended the lifeline of it, nor have they found another vehicle to produce in its absence. They are producing other vehicles at the Rosslyn plant, but that particular one is not. So at this point, as you said, retrenching 400 members of staff. Hopefully, and Nissan says that certainly they haven't discounted this, they can find a replacement for that bakkie, which they will be producing. But of course, it's in a global nature. We're not just, competing in manufacturing for our local market. The manufacturers the world over for Nissan who are competing to produce their vehicles, and we need to be competitive in that space and hope that we can get a replacement.
Well, let me tell you one thing, Simon. The South African consumer is not going to be happy with that. That bakkie has a particular resonance with the people here in South Africa. They will call it Nissan, A1400. All right, let's conclude the conversation with the local unit of the U.S. investment banking group, that's Citibank. It's in the firing line, Simon, and it seems that the South African Revenue Service is unhappy with its secondment of the company's offshore employees. What's happening here?
Yeah, and this is tax treatment, and it boils down to, is it a foreign employee or is it a service being provided? Now, what's often happened is what you do is you make it a service provider, and the simplicity there is that you don't have to worry about payroll tax and the medical aids and all of those sort of things. It creates simplicity for, in this case, Citibank. SARS has stepped in and said, well, hang on a second, service provider, if they're exceeding the VAT threshold, they need to be charging VAT. And Citibank pushed back and said, no, not at all. But SARS is digging their heels in here. And we're seeing a lot of SARS going after what might seem like fairly small areas, and in this particular case, it wouldn't net a lot of revenue, but it sets precedent. And I think that's what SARS is really looking at here and saying, there's a threshold, it's R1 million. If your service provider exceeds it, there needs to be VAT charged.
Simon Brown, JustOneLap founder, thank you very much for that markets update.